All right, here we go. Tuesday, May 15th. Sports Bit Betting Inside today. Pauly and Teddy. We start our division previews, team previews in the NFL. AFC East up first, and the Buffalo Bills that made the playoffs last year. They're 6.5. New quarterback, some changes there. We'll talk about the Bills. Play of the day coming up. We'll turn the shot clock on. Loaded show coming up. And the best and worst thing we heard yesterday as far as sports betting legalization. We'll get to all that coming up. Bad beats, bad. Oh, of course, Game 2, Eastern Conference Finals. Boston 37-0 all time when they lead a series 2-0. Can they go up 2-0 tonight? You always got to get the best number. Warriors, Rockets total open 224, got as high as 226. We'll call it 225.5. For whatever reason, the Rockets fouled down 11 with 12 seconds left. It falls 225. Incredible finish. The Warriors, much the best. Remember, the best team in the third quarter in the regular season. They did it again in the playoffs. They did it last night. They came out and outscored the Rockets, and they steal Game 1. And Houston supporting cast, as we talked about the series preview last week and a little bit yesterday, the supporting cast stunk. They got nothing out of Mbamute, Tucker, or Ariza. Ariza was battling foul trouble. And as far as Anderson and Mbamute, I don't know how many minutes they can give these guys. Mbamute missed 3 bunnies in that game and didn't score.
Sure, lots of missed layups for the Rockets, which was certainly good for underbettors. From a point spread perspective, the key story on this game is clearly the total. They were at 210 with a minute and a half to play and of a comfortable Golden State lead. This game wasn't supposed to sneak over for anybody, but it did thanks to that late foul, as you mentioned. And that's not a great result for the house when it bounces between 224 and 226 all day and lands 225 or right in the middle. Yeah. That's a tough beat if you had a bad number and a bad result for bookmakers, both here in Las Vegas and offshore when it came to the total. When it came to the side, I mean, you're reading the quotes out of Golden State, man, they sound scary right now. Draymond Green. It's the best time of year, playing for all the marbles. We're trying to win a championship. There's no reason not to lock in. The further you get along, the better it gets. The quotes for a Warriors team that, look, going into the postseason, there were clear issues. Would they lose 10 of their last 17 games in the regular season? They seemed all banged up. Well, when you look at the way they took away 82 games to create that home court advantage, the way they took it away last night, and Houston running all those isolation sets, one after the next, James Harden, 45 isolation plays in Game 1, the most by any team in any game, regular season or playoffs over the last 5 seasons. Wasn't good basketball to watch, wasn't good basketball on the floor, and it didn't result in a Rockets victory. The team that's been there before, acting like they've been there before, Golden State, with a 1-0 series edge. But what do you think, Pauly? It feels to me like this series is already over.
Yeah, minus 550 adjusted series price, and that's how the Rockets play. That's what got them 65 wins, number 2 offense in the league, just behind Golden State. So the supporting cast has to help out. So Harden was struggled defensively, but at 41 points, it was a strange game. But also 13 threes apiece. Remember, Houston had outscored opponents 13.8 points from 3 during the playoffs as well. 13.8 points per game from 3. So that's how sharp the bookmakers are. The prop was 26.5, and it finished 26 for made threes. They got to get tomorrow, or the season's over. Because now you're going to have to – how many games you're going to have to win? Probably have to win at least 2, maybe more, in Golden State, and they've won 15 in a row in the playoffs at home, tied for the NBA record. So this is a tough task, and they have nobody that can check Durant. No surprise there.
Well, I mean, Golden State, excuse me, the pedigree is there, Pauly. When you have the rings, you know what it takes to dig down and get the next one. Houston, we talked about it repeatedly in the lead up to this series. A bunch of guys that have had great careers, but haven't been able to get over the hump. And they just made it a whole lot harder for themselves with last night's loss. Bottom line, Golden State a right side winner. Total, the better bettors won. The less better bettors, not so much, pushed or lost. in that contest. But minus 550 for Golden State after game one, I think it's cheap.
The Brewers and Diamondbacks total was 8. Tough beat here. 2 outs in the ninth. A 2-out, 2-run home inside the park home run makes it 7-2. And that one, Diamondbacks going through a funk now as they have a losing streak. And the A's over from 9 to 9.5. They beat the Red Sox. It's the first game with Manaea that went over. 7-1 to the under now as finally one of his starts go over. And look at Carrasco taking all that money. A 60-cent move on the Indians. 210 up to 270. And the Indians lose again.
What do you say to someone who has a Brewers under 8 ticket in their pocket? And there's 2 outs in the ninth inning. And you have not just a home run, an inside the frickin' park home run with 2 outs in the ninth to kill your under. That's tough. That is really tough. We'll call that a bad beat. And you talked about Cleveland. I mean, they were bet up, 60-cent move towards the Indians yesterday against the frickin' Tigers. Yeah. That's 2 days after they blew that 9-4 lead against Kansas City, where I had them on the run line and I was about ready to strangle somebody. Indians are now 20-20. And they're costing their backers, on average, 25 cents a game. They've been a bad bet more than once this season. They certainly were last night.
All right, game 2 coming up tonight. We'll get to that in a second. Before game 2, it's lottery time, Teddy. Ping pong ball action. Phoenix, the best odds to get the number 1 pick, 25%. Memphis, number 2. Dallas, Atlanta, Orlando, Chicago, Sac, and the Cavs as they get the pick from the Nets. How about this? The 76ers, I know it's Dumb and Dumber, so you're telling me there's a chance. The 76ers could get the number 1 pick in the draft. If the Lakers get the number 1 pick, it goes to Philly. And if the pick falls between 2 and 5, it goes to Boston. How about that? That they have to give that up. And the 76ers, trust the process, have the 26th pick and have 4 second-round picks as well, in addition to where they could be picking again in the first round. We'll see where this pick lands with the Lakers shenanigans.
And the most amazing thing to me about tanking is that after all the tanking, Phoenix accomplished their goal. They lost all the games they were supposed to lose. They got blown out by all the other lottery teams. And after all of that, after putting your fans through a nightmare, they get a 25% chance to get the number 1 overall pick. No one would be shocked. They're dogs to get it if somebody else moves up in the lottery and knocks Phoenix down a spot or 2. Yep. You know, I'm not a big fan of the tanking process. And certainly the NBA has to, we've been saying it for 20 years, they got to do something about fixing the draft lottery. Having half the league trying to lose their games to get a bunch of ping pong balls is a little bit ridiculous.
Well, I think they did. It starts next year as the 3 worst teams are now they all have 14% chance to get the number 1 pick as they changed that for next year. Dumbest thing you heard yesterday. Out of all this, I did several interviews. I watched TV a lot. I turn on SportsCenter at 3 o'clock Pacific. The second question to a legal analyst was, how concerned are you about players and athletes betting on games in New York and New Jersey? He says that's a big concern. I mean, this is ridiculous. My co-host was asked about what if, a player tipping his friends off about missed free throw props and maybe trying to bet $100,000 on that and $50,000. I mean, people think you can show up with a duffel bag and bet whatever you want on props, and I mean, not to mention the fact that these guys are making astronomical salaries. The example I gave yesterday was Jeff Green, who's I would say below average and jumps from team to team, made $15 million last year. I mean, DeMar DeRozan makes $27 million a year. You think he's missing a free throw to try to scoop $4,000? I mean, this is lunacy here. What these people think about athletes. Oh no, athletes are going to bet now. And you might see some fixing here.
Okay, so there was certainly a lot of dumb mainstream opinions. Of course there's going to be dumb mainstream opinions because there was nothing but limited information and misinformation about sports betting in the mainstream marketplace, basically forever. But the biggest thing that shocked me yesterday was a couple of things. I mean, people I respect. Roxy Roxborough on Twitter. Oh, don't worry, this will sail through Congress. No problem. Congress is going to fix this. That there's going to be an easy peasy bill that just sails through the House, sails through the Senate. Everyone's going to sign it. Problem solved. Sports betting legalized and regulated throughout the U.S. I'll take the over on when that happens. I do not expect, as with any legislation, it is a convoluted, long, difficult process. We're not going to see the murkiness around the striking down of the anti-PAPSA bill, that is not going to immediately result in, wow, sports betting everywhere for everyone right away. It's just not going to happen that way. Easy peasy. It's not sailing through Congress. It might limp through Congress, but it's not sailing through Congress. I don't think so anyway.
How about your buddy Orrin Hatch? Huh? How about what he was up to? 84 years old. One of the 4 guys who came up with PASPA, too, saying he's worried about the integrity of the game. Can't have this. Looking for an anti-gambling betting bill.
Well, I mean, we'll give Orrin Hatch credit because it has to be done. On a federal level, something has to be done. At least Orrin Hatch isn't burying his head in the sand. I'll give him credit for that. Although, again, what kind of legislation does Washington put together? And how good is it? How quickly does it come through? I'll take the over on how long it takes and the under on how good the legislation is. And bad legislation, a bad bill, will keep every bookie in business, every offshore in business, and the legalized gaming revenue will be minuscule compared to what it could be if they just follow Nevada's model and do it right.
Well, we'll see what happens. Uncharted waters here. And it could be the wild, wild west. Who knows if Congress gets involved and how long that takes. Dan Wetzel from Yahoo Sports said it was a bad day for the mob. That remains to be seen. Who knows what this will happen. And we'll see the days of $1.10 disappearing as well. Here we go. Game 2, ESPN. Celtics at home against the Cavs, where the Celtics are 8-0 straight up in ATS in the playoffs. Pick them now. 203.5 the total. Adjusted series price. You can find the Cavs about $1.25, $1.30, depends where you shop. Blowout in game 1, never a game. That big run, that 17-0 run in the first quarter. The Celtics were terrific. The Cavs stunk. The Cavs were 4 of 26 from 3. Boston was 11 of 30. But how about the balance? Brown with 23. Morris with 21. Horford with 20. Tatum had 16. And the Celtics realized early in the game that there was 0 rim protection by Cleveland. 60 points in the paint, 20 in the first 9 minutes. It looks like Lou might put Thompson into the starting lineup and maybe get him more minutes. All told, it was a 25-2 run in the first quarter. That was the Cleveland team from the regular season that we all know and love, and that was the Cleveland team with the second worst defense in the regular season that showed up in game 1.
Sure, and that game's also in the rearview mirror now. You know, I mean, what have we seen out of the Cavs in the postseason? Very consistent. They've lost, looked ugly in some of the losses, and they bounced back pretty strong. In fact, they haven't lost 2 in a row throughout the postseason, and the markets are starting to reflect that. As you mentioned, Boston down to pick 'em here in Las Vegas. On your screen, it's going to say -1. That's the offshore line. We have seen, no question, some Cavs money coming this morning, and some of it's been fairly sharp. And, you know, when you talk about the series price, again, it's a Celtics team that not getting the level of respect most other teams in this spot would be get. I love LeBron's quote, though. You know, LeBron, I have 0 level of concern at this stage. I didn't go to college, so it's not March Madness. You know, and there's truth to that. It is one game for Cleveland. And Cleveland, as a mature veteran team who's been in these spots before, I would expect the Cavs to be able to handle this effectively. LeBron, quote, I've been down before in the postseason, but for me, there's never any level of concern, no matter how bad I played. With 7 turnovers, how efficient I was shooting the ball, we'll have enough opportunity to be better as a ball club coming in Tuesday night, and we'll just see what happens. But I thought you nailed it, Paul, when you talked about the supporting cast. It was the supporting cast for Cleveland that didn't show. Well, I mean, nobody showed. The game was, 61-35 at halftime. You know, for a LeBron that came in averaging 34 points, 9.5 boards, and 9 assists. It was as bad a game as he's had here in the postseason. And I love the quote from Tristan Thompson. Quote, usually when LeBron has these kind of games, the next game, he does something legendary.
I don't doubt that. But let's be honest, this roster stinks. And throw out that series against Toronto. They're a bunch of mental midgets, so they blew game 1 and then they quit on the series and then were embarrassed themselves in game 2 and game 4. And they've lost 10 straight playoff games to Cleveland, and as a result, Casey got fired. Casey's not walking through that door. It's Brad Stevens, and he knows, quote, I think we're very alert to the fact we'll get a heavyweight punch tonight. It's another great challenge, another great opportunity to experience something new for this team. I thought our guys played with good aggression tonight. Going to have to play better Tuesday after they won 108-83. I am with you. LeBron will be terrific, and he will bounce back, although they did a good job sending so many guys at him, and Morris did a great job defending him. He said, I do the best job on LeBron other than Kawhi Leonard. They also have to wear LeBron out and make him play defense. Morris going for 21 and 10 certainly helped that. But, again, what we said and everything we said with these conference previews have been spot on. Number one, we said Houston doesn't have a chance if Capella doesn't play well, and he was on the bench a lot, and the supporting cast doesn't show up, and the Rockets supporting cast was terrible. Also going in, talking about Cleveland, the game plan was going to be shut down Kevin Love, just like Indiana did. If LeBron wants to go for 40, so be it. Don't let the others get involved, and it almost worked. They lost in 7, but Oladipo couldn't make a shot for 3 games. Now, remember what they did against Philly. They are so good. This is number 1 defense in the league. They shut down the perimeter and the 3-point shooting of Philadelphia, and they have Bellinelli, Ilyasova, and Redick. So if I contain Korver and Smith, who combined for 9 points in game 1, and I slow down Kevin Love, Clarkson, please. Nance doesn't play. Hood, give me a break. Who scares me on Cleveland? Who's going to beat me on this team if I can contain Love, Korver, and Smith, and they don't go off and maybe give me a 16 or 17-point game and get going early from 3? It's a bad roster.
The guy who has to step up for the Cavs tonight, I'd say, is George Hill. He's the one that it makes sense to me. If Cleveland's ball distribution was not good in game 1. Their passing was not spot on. They didn't hit open shooters throughout the course of the contest. George Hill, to me, is the X factor for the Cavs. The Cavs are going to win this game. He's going to have to play much, much better. Of course, J.R. Smith, we've got to help Bron. We can't just expect him to do everything. As role players, we've got to play our role. When Cleveland's been better in the postseason, it's been the role players who have stepped up around LeBron. Boston has had a pretty good way of shutting down a lot of the number 2 and number 3 options from opposing teams so far this postseason. We also got some quotes here, some questions in the chat. Gary Sheridan asking, I see 2 lines on LeBron total scores, guys, 31.5 and 33.5 over and under total points. Which do you think is the right one? Under 33.5 or over 31.5? You want to bet against LeBron tonight, Pauly? I don't know if I do.
No, over. Everything over. Everything over. Points, rebounds, assists, everything added up. He always bounces back. He has been awesome in game 2s as well. Coming off, it's staggering his numbers. Coming off a loss or even a poor performance by his standards as well, or team performance, or LeBron. He struggled in game 1 too. So this quote about I'm going to feel my way out of the series and go through the motions in game 1. Everything over with LeBron. Can you imagine if it's Golden State and Cleveland? I talked to Jeff Sherman today at the Westgate here in Vegas. He makes the Warriors maybe $10 in that series. He had to buy minus $7, probably long gone. If they take out Houston in 4 or 5, and these guys have to beat Boston in 7 in a hard-fought series, even though they got Stevens, but without their 2 best players, please. What's Golden State going to do to this outfit with the second worst defense in the league in that roster? Oh my God.
But remember, if the Warriors will be minus 1,000 against the Cavs, they'll be more than that against the Celtics.
Probably.
Right now, in the betting markets, Cleveland is power rated higher than Boston. Yep. That's why the Cavs were favorites game 1. That's why we're seeing Pick'em Boston -1 in game 2. That says on a neutral floor, they've got Cleveland 3.5 points better than Boston right now, which no one who's watched the playoffs so far would agree with. Brian Myers, great quote. Dumbest thing I heard was that Atlantic City will be the new Las Vegas. What do you think of that one, Pauly? There's something missing in Atlantic City for about, 8 months of the year. Maybe in June, July, and August. But Atlantic City's not going to be Vegas.
No. Well, it can make a comeback. It can. We had Senator Lesniak on today. I talked to him. He thinks it can save Atlantic City, but what it means to New Jersey and Monmouth Park. Good job for he lost 8 straight times and didn't give up. He's the reason this happened too. Lesniak's the man. But it also comes down to the app. Once you get the app and you can bet from your couch, I would agree that maybe I think Atlantic City will be a player with boxing and get more of the big time fights again. But who knows? Again, uncharted territory here and how that's going to work with it. And I'll tell you what, you got to put Even if you get the mobile app, I want the kiosks in the stadium and the arenas because I want to fund my account. I don't want to be out in play in the second quarter of the game. I want to be able to fund the account and go. I got to go to the kiosk, right? Unless I can slide my credit card right through. So we'll see how they do this. And again, William Hill told me yesterday they expect to be open in a couple of weeks at Monmouth Park. Very good. Although I will say this, going back, the Celtics do give the Warriors issues for whatever reason. They play them tough, and that is the #1 defense in the league. So, but I'm with you. Deep dive AFC East preview. Let's start with the Buffalo Bills. They finally did it. They exercised the demons. They made the playoffs last year after that long layoff. Almost beat Jacksonville. What was that? A 10-3 final they lost in the first round of the playoffs. Yep. 9-7 last year. Taylor out the door. McCarron, the new quarterback, and they move up to take Josh Allen.
Yeah. Okay. So Buffalo is being priced as a team that the markets expect a significant amount of regression. They went 9-7 last year, and right now I'm seeing 6.5 over -130 here in Vegas. You make the argument they're lined 6.7, 6.8, not 6.5 exactly, but lined under 7 wins. The market's expecting a 2.5 game regression for the Bills to be at their number this season. When you look at the stats from last year, and then you analyze the roster, you're going to understand why the markets are a little bit reluctant to expect Buffalo to have back-to-back stellar seasons. Last year, on offense, this playoff team, well, they ranked number 30 in yards per play, 4.7 yards per play on offense. They really didn't move the ball effectively at any stage during the campaign. The games where the offense worked, well, they didn't turn the ball over. J.D. McCoy got going, and that was the essence of the offense. I mean, over the last 3 years, Tyrod Taylor had the second best interception rate in the NFL behind only Tom Brady. He also had the worst sack rate, essentially the most conservative quarterback in the league. Now, they don't have Tyrod Taylor anymore. Maybe the offense opens up a little bit. Defensively, last year, they were number 12 against the pass. They allowed 6.3 yards per pass attempt. That's pretty good. And, of course, on offense, they only get 5.7 yards per pass attempt. That's number 28 in the NFL. But the other reason why the markets are not excited about Buffalo, something that really stands out statistically from last year, they had 25 takeaways. That was number 7 in the NFL. They had 16 giveaways. That was number 6 in the NFL, and fewest turnover. And the +9 differential, the +9 turnover differential, was a number 7 ranking. You put all those together, more than average takeaways, fewer than average giveaways, a nice positive differential. And you say, how likely is that to happen again this season with a new quarterback, potentially a rookie quarterback? Yeah, you can see the turnover margin declining for the Bills, an offense that wasn't all that good a season ago, not getting a whole lot better. Hence, the market regression for Buffalo, pricing them in the 6.5 win range.
Well, you're right about that, brother, because when you look at the teams, two things always come back. If you win all those close games and the turnover battle. And that happened with a lot of teams. Well, usually happens, but especially it would happen with the Raiders last year. 2 years ago, they won every close game and were +16 in the turnover battle. And you saw what happened last year. Now, wide receivers, you got Benjamin and Jones and Holmes. Not good. Although I think Benjamin's not he's underrated. Though certainly they played better without him in Carolina. When he got hurt, they went 15-1 and went to the Super Bowl. Now, the unknown is at quarterback. Now, everything you said about Taylor, where he didn't want to throw the ball downfield, but they still won 9 games and went to the playoffs. McCarron, I think, can be good. Now, he did play well in that playoff loss at home to Pittsburgh that they should have won. Then Burfict and Pac-Man Jones lost their minds. He also played well in that Monday night game against Osweiler when they lost as well. But I don't have a lot to go on with McCarron. So it comes down to this. How long does he start? There are some offshore props. I think it was 9.5 starts for Josh Allen. To me, you can't teach accuracy, and that was a big problem with him at Wyoming. He has a big arm, so he can throw it in that cold weather in Buffalo, but I think they're going to bring him along slowly. And I think if the longer McCarron plays, the better chance you have to cash an over ticket. But if you like the Bills under, you want to see Allen in there immediately, because I think he's going to struggle, because he put up bad numbers at Wyoming the last 2 years, although he didn't have much to work with last year.
Yeah, Josh Allen is not an NFL-ready quarterback. And if Josh Allen starts, if anything happens to McCarron, and I mean, Peterman had that disaster start last year against the Chargers.
Yes.
Where it couldn't have been uglier. But there's hope for him in a fill-in role. if Josh Allen sees the field before December, it's not going to be a good season in Buffalo. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
There's potential for this kid, no question, but he is a work in progress. He's a project. He's not someone that's going to be capable of going in from day one. And McCarron, there is hope for McCarron. They have 3 of their starting 5 offensive linemen back. They did lose the 10-year veteran, Eric Wood. He's gone at the center position and tackle. The tackle, Gordy Glenn, was traded in the Josh Allen deal. I like what they did on the defensive line, bringing in Star Tulele and Trent Murphy, a couple of guys they need for what Sean McDermott is trying to do on the defense side of the football. And I didn't love the draft. I mean, at the top of them, you get Josh Allen, who's the potential franchise QB. The linebacker, Tremaine Edmonds, he's real good out of Virginia Tech. The Harrison Phillips on the defensive side of the football, and Teron Johnson from Weber State. A couple of smaller college prospects for the Bills, but I think they drafted fairly well guys that can come in and contribute right away in 2018. Of course, the secondary looks pretty good. You know, we talked about their defensive numbers at the top of the show. You have Vontae Davis on the one side. You have the all-rookie selection last year, Tre'Davious White at the other side, and Micah Hyde, a Pro Bowler at safety last year. You say, what do you need to succeed in the modern NFL? You need it on the defensive side of the football. You need a decent defensive line. You need a decent secondary. The Bills appear to have both of those attributes taken care of.
Schedule. AFC East faces the AFC South and NFC North. 2 extra games, Ravens and Chargers. Tougher than average slate. And maybe it's a little bit like the Dolphins last year. Dolphins made the playoffs that year. 2 years ago, it took advantage of an easy schedule. Didn't beat anybody that year. Remember when they beat Pittsburgh, Roethlisberger was banged up. They beat the Jets, Dolphins twice, Bucks, Broncos, Raiders, Colts in overtime in that snow game. They did beat the Chiefs and Falcons, both on the road. Those were impressive wins. Only 2 of the 9 came against good teams.
Yeah, and when you look at how this schedule plays out, take a look at it right here. At Baltimore, Chargers at home, at Minnesota, at Green Bay, Tennessee at home, at Houston, at Indy, New England at home. That's a brutal slate to open up the campaign. They may well be dogs in each and every one of those ball games. That doesn't bode well for betting the Bills over the total, and it doesn't bode well for the concept of Josh Allen doesn't see the field until December or not at all, because when you're facing one playoff contender after the next, including that 4 games in 5 weeks on the road, it could get ugly for Buffalo. We'll talk about them. Well, we'll debate them right now as we turn on the shot clock.
Yep, I'll start. You know, you made a good point with the schedule, and I agree with you. If they get up to a slow start, then they'll probably go to Allen. Then the wheels will come off, and it could be a 4-12 season. But you're right. Baltimore to start, almost made the playoffs last year, 1 play away. Most people think the Chargers are going to win the division in the West. At Minnesota, playoff team, NFC title game. At Green Bay, playoff team if Rodgers stays healthy. They're lined, 10.5 wins. Tennessee, playoff team. Houston would have made the playoffs. If Watson and Watt didn't get hurt, they're going to be dangerous. And then after Indy, which with luck back, who knows, no cupcake, you got to play the Patriots. So I'm with you. It's a tough way to start the season in the first 2 months. But again, it comes down to the quarterback. The longer McCarron stays in, the better chance you have at cashing an over. But I'm with you. It's an under if they go to Allen by October.
Sure. And the bottom line for me, it's really simple. First lean on the Bills, take the under 6.5 wins. The concept couldn't be any clearer. Don't ask teams with bad quarterbacks to go 500. The NFL is a QB league. The Buffalo Bills have all kinds of question marks at the QB position and some question marks on the offensive line as well from what was a solid unit last year. Under 6.5 wins. And if you shop around, you find plus money on that prop, and maybe you can even find a 7 or 2 out there. They were there. Not too far in the past, there were 7s out there.
Yeah.
6.5, certainly the prevailing number. Take Bills under. Not going to ask a team with a bad QB to go 500.
You're right about that. Always get the good number. Like last night in the NBA, that's the second time that's happened with the Warriors. Remember, game 1 against New Orleans, opened 223, bet up to 225 and landed 224. And then you saw what happened last night. Hope you got 225.5. We pushed with the play of the day. And by the closing line, 5 of the last 6 Golden State games have gone under. Money time, play of the day, game 2, Eastern Conference Finals. Can't wait. Lottery before it. Can Boston go up 2-0? What do you want to do?
I want to take this game up and over. The total market's moving in that direction this morning. 203.5. The current betting number. Cavs brickfest in game one. Celtics have been playing over at home, and in their last 12 have gone over the total. And I think they'll continue to find good shots against Cleveland's defense. The pace should be there. The offensive execution should be there. Let's take the Cavs and the Celtics. OVER over the total. 203.5. The current prevailing number. Bet that sooner rather than later. We have seen the markets move towards the over in early betting action this morning.
All right, tomorrow, game 2, Rockets-Warriors. Can Houston make that a series? And Miami-Dolphins. It could be bad. And we'll get to the Patriots later in the week as well. SportsBit 2.0. Betting Insight today, SBR Picks. Thanks to BetOnline and Intertop Sportsbook. 22 years online. Sign up, deposit, win. I'm at Real Sportsbet on Twitter. He's at Teddy_Covers. Thanks to the crew. We'll take your questions as well every day. Fire away up there as well. And we'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.